Hello and welcome to today's painting stream. Today I'm going to be painting a soft purple dusk Alpine trail of kind of like, who knows where this is. I grabbed this reference photo. It's an altered photograph. We're going to be altering the painting even more than that, but this is the general idea of the thing. Happy rain day for anyone who is in the atmospheric river this Sunday morning. So I'm changing the angle of the light for the composition of this, and I did quite a few thumbnails to alter things in a way that are better for the painting composition. If you're interested in seeing the reference photo, the link is in the description of the video, and that's on my art community Discord. So here's the work that we've done. I'm going with a zigzag composition with some areas of interest at each point where your eye might transition to the next part of the path. And there's going to be light coming in from a setting sun on the left side, not the upper left, but just the left. And that's going to cast some light on the left trees, which is great because that's going to set them apart from the darker trees that are a little bit more in the foreground. And then of course there's going to be a romantic and mysterious crescent moon in the upper right. And I added some foreground, they're not bushes, maybe baby trees, to add more lead lines that take you up to the moon. Well, that will be the darker side of the painting, will be the right. Now what's beautiful is about this reference photos, there isn't just purple in the sky, there's also purple in the foreground that ties it in and makes really great color harmony. So this whole thing is going to have a purple cast to it, which I am excited about because I love the purple paintings. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the underpainting, and I'm going to use the gold, and I'm going to strategically put it on, making sure to keep in mind the differences between the reference photo and what we're actually going to do with the painting. And I'm going to lock in all this graphite. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that I've gone really detailed with the drawing, and sometimes I get carried away because, you know, drawing on paper is quite fun. So I went ahead and established the values, and it's okay to be detailed with your pencil as long as you wouldn't mind any of those lines showing in the final. Just make sure you get rid of anything that might be weird later. So, because you don't want to mess with that. If you have nice brush strokes on your painting and you can see like a faint graphite line underneath it doing something different, you're not going to be that stoked on that. So what you can do is you can smear the graphite on the smooth paper and then erase away sections, and you can still get the impression of it, like what has been done with these clouds that are going to be light on the sun side of the sky. I'm starting with this very large filbert because I want to cover a lot of areas and I want to use really light brush strokes. I find that when I establish the values in the drawing, that things do move a little bit faster in the painting process. Because I'm using a lot of transparent paint, a lot of this stuff does make an impression on the final. Bigger, more expressive foreground brush strokes there. Also would like that to be a lot darker. Okay, everything is covered. I think I'm going to start with the let's see. Maybe we'll just do sky and then work all our way down. The sky is not taking up a lot of area, so I'm going to use the small filbert. I'm going to mix a cerulean blue and titanium white with just a touch of magenta. And I'm going to start from the darkest side of the sky. I'm going to add a little bit more blue and a little bit more white as I move across the sky and down towards the horizon line. I think now is the point where we start to add some pink to the sky blend. Some going closer to that horizon line. That horizon line is going to glow a little bit, which is going to look nice. And I'm going to want that same color glow on the snow that's reflecting. And as we gradate the sky lighter, that will pop the mountains just a little bit, because I'm going to want to make them a very similar color purple to what I am using right now. Just added a little bit of cadmium red. Okay, now lighter again. But these... Okay, so I'm going to want to do this cloud first. This cloud line is a little bit darker, but it's more warm than the right side. Almost there. I'm going to switch to a point brush to get a little bit of lightness right at the top of the mountain. Put a little bit of water in that white paint so that I can drag it really accurately along the top of the mountains. Now I'm wiping off the brush completely so that it's dry, and then I am blending the wet edge along the top of that mountain there. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to go back to the filbert, but I need to clean it out a bit because the color that's coming in from the setting sun is a little bit more on the yellow side of things. I am going to be going back to the point brush in the sky because there's some delicate detail happening. Just have cadmium red, yellow, and white on my brush right now. Just gonna blend this up over the paint that we have going on. These little wispy clouds that I added for myself. I'm going to dry brush this white color over the purple. Now I rinsed out the brush, put some water on it, doesn't have to be super clean, and I'm dragging it over what I just dry brushed, which is going to blend it in even more. There's not a lot of texture on this paper, so it's going to give you maximum influence with your brushes and the amount of water that you're using. And that's why I enjoy painting on this stuff. Okay, I got the point brush. Gonna detail in that spot between these clouds here. trying to decide if I need a little bit more purple in this area. I think just a little bit, but I'm going to add some white because I think this has become a little bit too warm for that spot in particular. Adding a little bit more cerulean blue. I like to keep a limited color palette because if you need to go back and add things, you're going to learn really quickly how to go back and change things back the way they were, because you only have so many options here. So just put a real light amount of paint on my brush, on the filbert, and go back over this area very lightly with a pretty horizontal brush, lightly dragging over the area. Just blending back. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Might bring that down just a little bit, but I'm going to want to go to white, more white. Dry brushing that color over that entire area for artistic flair and to incorporate the new color into that whole zone of the sky. I think what I'm going to do, since we're spending a lot of time up here anyway, and it's going to be worth it, is I'm going to warm up the edge of this cloud. Great. I think I like that. I might put a little bit of highlight. On these cloud shapes, and I'm going to overlap the area of blue and the area that I have divvied out for them. On the sun side edge. Just kind of scraping the paint on. All right, let's put a little bit of white on that moon. And then I'm gonna call that good for the sky. There we go, that's lovely. Okay, so the mountains are gonna be purple, but I need a little bit more control than those filbert brushes, those for more artistic blending. Blending without hard edges, because I love me some flats. I love using flats for all sorts of things, but sometimes I want a very non-specific edge blend. I just don't want to see exactly where the paintbrush ends when I'm like dry brushing every single time. For lack of better words. Okay, so I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do the tree lines first and then negative paint them. I think that might give us the best results, the most interesting results. So, yay for little tree time. Tiny little happy tree time. Gonna need something smaller than that. This tree here will be positive painted on top. Maybe all the trees at the exact same time, like right now. It's happening. But I'm gonna use the number 2 point. And we're gonna mix this color. Gonna need a bit of it. Ultramarine, quinacridone magenta, and the gold. That's going to be our darkest value. I'm going to add a little bit of cadmium yellow to green this up. Okay, it could be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to use the cerulean blue. A little bit more yellow, but I'm only going to add this to one side. Alright, there's our light green and our dark green. I'll probably be adding a little bit of white where I need to send the trees into the background. These ones, I'm sending those into the background. There's some purple here on the brush. I'm gonna let that happen because the purple and the green are opposite the color wheel. They're gonna mute themselves down into a less intense color that is also gonna send it into the background. I just want to make sure that it's different enough from what the mountains will eventually be, which I think it will. The mountains are gonna be kind of a fun blue. I think the blue color from here. Okay, let's see if this is too light. No, it's not. I think that's just fine. I added just a touch more white and a little tiny touch yellow. And I'm gonna really try to get some interesting tree shapes here, but if they're a little bit blobby, which is fine, I can negative paint them when I'm doing the mountain. The bottoms of the trees are going to be a little bit darker than the tops. Going to try to get that work in while the paint is still wet. This tall tree is right at 1/3 of the painting, so it's gonna serve as a lead line up into the sky, and then the clouds are gonna carry us over to the moon. I believe that's what I have happening here. I'll lighten up the value of these trees a little bit as I come in front of these other trees. And make sure they stand out from each other. Lovely. Okay, next row of trees, and this row is going to have the highest value darks, which are going to be up against here. You can see that I already have that pretty much established, that that's the darkest part. So I'm going to start there and then work my way out of that spot. Super dark. But that's going to look really nice because there's a bright green grass clump right in front of it. being really light with my touch of these trees here because these are being positive painted on. I am done with the thing that they are going over, so I want to be real careful. And they're so small. Good. Good, great. I feel like I'm kind of sketching these trees on, which is kind of fun. I'm using our lighter color green and I'm kind of sketching back into that dark value, or darkest value that we put on first when we started this tree line here. Gonna add a little bit of yellow to the side of this green just to get something a little bit more light and saturated. Gonna use that on the very top, so these trees here. That one in particular is way up there. I'm gonna try to stay sketchy with this foreground tree. I added some of that lighter green color, but now I'm gonna work darker as I come down the right side. And now just the darker color as I'm on the base of it. almost there with these guys. Now we just have some foreground trees. Kind of foreground, I mean, you know. I'm going to use our brighter green color on the tops and then work into our darker value on the bottoms. Alright, lots of sketchy little lines there. While I have that on my brush, I'm gonna just put in some foreground brush strokes. Because I might do another layer on top of that. Okay. Now, what were we doing? Oh, that's right, that big, beautiful mountain back there. Going to need to mix the blue for that. You know, these little paintings, I'd be okay having a smaller palette knife because that could do a lot more than what I'm using it for. Let's see. I really like these little silicone palette knives, and especially since we're using them on this wet palette, which is paper, it's not gonna destroy it. Although I do wish I had an angled one. Maybe somewhere. Maybe I'll pursue that at some point. Cerulean blue, magenta. Move that some over there. I went a little too purple. Okay. Now Now some white. We're almost there. That would be great for the top of the mountain. I think I want to put some ultramarine down here at the bottom, and that's going to deepen the value. And we can just use that. Then we'll be ready to go. Okay, that looks like a good variety. Gonna use the point brush for this, and I am using it a lot at an angle to cover more area, and then using the point for more detailed spots. Let's see. I think I'm going to start with the darkest spot and then move across towards the light again. Trying to use a really delicate touch on these very small areas. I'm shaping my brush on the palette into kind of more of a wedge. And I'm using that to cut into these trees. And that's a pretty important thing to do when you're getting into shapes that are this small. And you don't want to be neurotic and get a smaller brush, because that would be too much. And that's not going to look very expressive. Although we are planning out everything pretty well. And when you're building up this many layers that are all supporting kind of like the same shapes, then you have something to fall back on. I think it really helps. Okay, let's see, what color are those snow parts? They are just a little bit lighter. Put just a little bit of yellow white in there. Just a tiny bit. Ultimately, it's still blue. Okay, now back to the mountain color. I ended up going a lot lighter than I had planned when I was mixing the color, but you know, sometimes you have to give yourself the freedom to adjust on the fly. Okay, there we are. We got our tree line, we got our mountain. I think that could be darkened a little bit. I don't think that that would be so bright. It's kind of away from the sun a little bit. There, that's better. Okay. Now moving on. Oh my gosh, we're finally out of the background. That's something. Okay. Mid-ground greens. They're gonna have some blue in them because they're way back there. And there's some lighter areas, especially up next to this really dark tree. That'll look nice. I'm going to stay on this point brush because everything is so dainty and small and all the details are very important on this one. And by the way, we haven't mentioned him, but this little foreground tree, I love him. He glows, he has nice contrast, but he's not pulling your eye too hard. Love that for him. So I'm gonna just, okay. We want to do what I call branch mixing, which is take the colors that we've mixed for other parts of the painting and just kind of alter them. And you get good color harmony like that. So I'm going to use the yellow. I'm going to bring it over to this blue, which will become kind of a blue-gray. And now we have our lightest green. We have our darkest green here, so it's gonna bounce between the two. I'm going to be really careful to paint around these trees. And it's going to be okay if I leave a little flecks of underpainting showing through. That's why we did a good job on that. Remember to shape your brush if you were losing definition on your brush strokes, if you need to get in somewhere. Sometimes it's kind of easy to lose track of what's happening with the bristles and charging forward because there's still enough paint on the brush, but no. Getting close to the foreground here, I've just tried to make sure that we can differentiate the different areas of the painting. This is a technique called checkering, and what it means is the different areas you're painting are kind of like gradated in a way where something light just happens to be next to the next area of the painting that is dark. And with some planning, you can make sure that happens every time. And you can do it with either the value of the area or the saturation of the color. I'm adding some light green highlights to these grasses here. I think that's going to be our primary focal point. That's where this little trail is going off into, between these trees, next to these bright green grasses. You can see out in the distance there's other bright green grass happening, but they're so far away that they're much darker. I'm going to go back to the medium green now and finish out the left side here in the foreground. As I get closer to the foreground, I'm going to be using like bigger brush strokes, big sketchy brush strokes. To give the impression of the texture of all this green stuff, these green vegetation. It looks like various alpine shrubs, grasses, and some wildflowers. There's some rock happening that is a cool gray, and that cool gray color is the same color that's in the path. It's funny, the path almost looks like asphalt, but I know it's not because there's just no freaking way. It's probably just the granite that's in the area, possibly. I think I'm going to do that rocky color now. so that I can overlap it with the greens that are going to continue to happen, and it's going to get a little bit, well, it's about the same value disappearing off into the background. So I'm going to start from here. And I'm going to make sure that my brush stroke is kind of horizontal. There we go. There's our dark color and our light color that we're going to use. It's funny how the palette ends up being really all over the place. Let's see, the sun's coming from this angle, so it's going to shadow the left side of the path from the grasses. Sometimes that's hard to keep in your mind. Tiny, tiny details. Okay, let's get the lighter color. I'm going to start from the other side of the path and work my way back. Same sketchy sideways brush strokes. I'm not going to completely cover everything. I want to keep the texture and the light, the impression of the light. Now I grabbed the darker color, I'm going to drag back again. I want some bigger areas the closer we are to the viewer. There we go. Well, that's right, we were going to use that rock color. On these rocks here. This rock is appearing a few more places than I originally intended, but I like what it's doing. It's adding some texture from what would otherwise be just a lot of green. I am going to be adding some flowers though. Flowers are coming. There, that path looks lovely. Okay, let's get some flowers going. There's a lot happening in this tiny painting. You can put a lot in a tiny painting. We need a purple, but something kind of like what's happening in the sky, but lighter. Probably here. So I'm going to put all this purple mass down, and it's going to be kind of a mess. And then I'm going to cut some grass into it and then highlight it. That's the plan. This is the same point brush that's been our friend the whole journey. Well, this time instead of shaping it into a wedge, which I have been doing quite a bit, I just smashed it straight onto the color, which makes the tip really smashed, mushy, I don't know, flower-like in shape. Now I'm using it to create a subtle edge. I don't know what kind of flowers these are. They're just cute little purple ground cover type flower. Okay, so I'm gonna put some low lights there. lower than that. Sketching in these shapes. And this is in the direction away from the light. Give them a little bit of shadow and form. Okay, now more grass, lots more grass. Pretty much the rest of the area is going to be grass, and then I will just touch the flowers a little bit on top of the grass, moving further away from us. As I move away from the foreground, not the foreground, the central focal point, I like to get a little bit more vague with brush strokes, and as long as you're layering your colors, then that's going to look just great. This usually happens towards the edge of the painting. The forward edge especially, because everything's going to get a little bit bigger in that direction anyway. I want the edge that is facing the light to be brighter. All right, now I'm mixing some of that green back into those flowers. Okay, I'm going to get a bigger brush for the foreground grass. I'm trying to decide whether I want to use a flat or a script, probably a flat. This flat, our favorite medium resistance bouncy flat. Gonna go darker. Darker and more muted. Okay, now darker still and more muted. Okay, now I'm going to do those same brush strokes over here. There is something that I didn't like very much, so I'm going to clean off the brush very quickly, go over to the clean water, clean again. Oh my gosh. And then wipe backwards, then paper towel, wipe backwards again, and kind of scrub the edge. Okay. Redeemed. Fix that up. There. If you're fast, you can fix it. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. Oh, look at those cute little flowers. Okay, so now I'm gonna incorporate some of those little pretty babies back a little bit more. This looks a little bizarre that there's just two clumps in the foreground. So here's our handy dandy number 2 point. Try to make it that big blobby shape. I'm taking the medium color of that purple and I'm going to put some vague flower patches here and there. Lovely. Now I'm going to highlight just a couple of them. Just the ones that make sense. Okay, now let's do a final pass, and I'm looking at anything that needs to be adjusted before we're done. Just defining some of these foreground flowers. It would be better if I knew what kind of flower it was so that I could give it like a actual form that made sense. We're just going to go with something magical. A little bit of a purple highlight on the path. A soft, warm gray on some of the rock. Sketchy shapes. Wipe off the brush. Blend the edges. And then drag a little bit of that lighter color over the other rocks that are pretty much in the shadow and pretty vague. Okay, I'm looking, I am liking it. I think the moon is fine. We're gonna leave that as a subtle detail. I don't want to mess it up with some weird brush stroke that's too strong. I think it's nice. It's got a yellow glow to it with a white. It's white and yellow, but it gradates down in a nice ombre fashion, which is nice. I appreciate how there's lots of yellow flecks around these trees, like they're picking up the light from the setting sun. I appreciate all of that. I think we have a nice amount of differentiation from the far background to the foreground. I feel like this could be a little bit darker in value. Let's try to do that with like a water glaze. Nice muted color, good amount of water on the brush, and I am just gonna go right over this area in question, over the trees and over the grass. And then I'm gonna wipe off the paint and I'm gonna brush back into those areas with the corresponding brush strokes in mind. Horizontal for the grass and then vertical for the trees. Keep that brush pretty parallel to the paper so that it's nice and gentle on that blend. Okay, I think that fixed that value. What I want is I want you to feel like you're going back. You're going from here, and then there, and then up towards the moon. So it is a zigzag composition. And I feel like it's pretty successful too. I like this little painting. I did enjoy it quite a bit. I wanted to not rush and take my time with this one, and it's Sunday, so I can do that. And the storm didn't knock down the internet or the power line, so I think overall this whole entire experience was a success, and I look forward to the tape heel. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I hope to see you next time. Happy painting until then.